Well, back again for another episode today. I do, in fact, change my clothes and shower and have good hygiene, but, for those of you wondering, but it's a doubleheader day. So that's just how it goes sometimes. We got a lot to go through, and sometimes with the travel schedules, we don't get that many days in office. So got to take advantage of it. Going through, we want to drop an episode, really this one, for you all wondering if you want to stay and tune in and listen to the whole thing or skip ahead. We're going to be talking a lot about ACA and, kind of updates, what's going on in the ACA Marketplace. There really is a lot changing and rapidly. And so it's almost like every couple of weeks, there's more kind of dropping and happening. So we want to kind of give you some of those updates. And Jeff and I, of course, were just back in St. Louis with Ambetter. They had a great event last week that we were out with their Partner Summit. And we're off to the UHC Partner Summit next week. 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Oh, in
Minnesota.
On a different one this Sunday. So in 2 weeks, we'll be in Minnesota on the ACA UHC one. So I'll probably give you more details there too. But before, we have some new regs kicking. We want to kind of talk about them. I don't think I have to introduce either one of you since you're not new. Everybody by now should know who you are and what you do here at Agent Boost. I know enough to be dangerous when it comes to the ACA, and you two are leaps and bounds ahead of me. You're going to hear from the experts today, not from me. But anyways, let's, Jeff, what do you think? Kick it off from the event last week?
Yeah.
Why don't you, your impressions and thoughts of the event?
I think, like always, Ambetter puts on great Partner Summit events. This one was kind of fun because neither of us have ever been to St. Louis before. So it's the headquarters of Ambetter, if anyone didn't know that already.
Yep.
Was really cool. Even the hotel we stayed in actually used to be owned by Centene, the Ritz-Carlton.
The Ritz there's beautiful.
Yeah.
We found out one of the only that has a really great sushi lounge on site and a cigar bar, in the same building, which is pretty cool. We stumbled upon a Capital Grill a block away by happenstance. It was very lucky since we both like
Very
it.
lucky. We were just looking for a restaurant and came right upon it.
Some good.
Yep.
By the way, it is an oven in St. Louis this time of year.
Extremely hot.
Oh my gosh, it was brutal. I mean, I think if you walked 2 blocks, you'd be dripping. But
Luckily, Richard took care of us and made sure that we had a bus to go 2 blocks.
That's true, right? But it was
Richard's the man.
cool. They did have like an entire couple city blocks. It was like a little mini city, and all like the local businesses around were catering to it. And they had, obviously the crosswalk, the bridges that connected the buildings, everywhere. So it's it was a pretty cool campus,
Sure.
really great facilities. It was beautiful. Those were like my impressions of it, good. And they had a good setup with all their guests staying in the hotel that if it weren't like the dead meat of like late July or August, I'm sure any other time of the year, it's a really pleasant walk from the hotel to the campus right there.
Yeah.
So
We're not used to humidity, so
No.
I took the bus with air conditioning.
but it's funny, like our guests today though, they were like putting on chapstick and everything, like, oh my gosh, I've only been here for a day. Like
Yeah.
I'm dying. Like, yep, welcome to the desert.
Yep.
So I
That's
mean,
fun too.
we had that event, Jeff, you said that Ambetter puts on a great event. I was actually really impressed because most of the carriers do like a really nice job as far as putting on a great event. There's the one thing I liked is that it was like very content rich and heavy. There was a lot of substance I felt like that they went through. They had, I'm not going to say it was overkill, but they had a day and a half of content because the first night we arrived, it's the typical, kind of like networking, night where you've been to a lot of these.
Oh, yeah.
Heather, where it's at a venue, beautiful ballroom or room, open bar, connect with Centene sales leaders and staff and, other people in the industry and other top partners. And
Great.
and this is really how we build a lot of relationships. Like, look, we compete against a lot of these distributors and agencies, but at the end of the day, we all learn and grow and build from one another too. And there's some common practices there that we all pick up and learn from one another. So, I mean, these are, valuable events for us, in talking. And so that's like, night one, obviously good food and drinks. Next day it's like down to business. But instead of a ballroom, we were in there. What would you call it? That
Like a war room / auditorium. It was really nice.
Yeah.
It was almost as nice as ours.
Yeah. It was like this really cool auditorium, but they had like the booth up there, somebody,
So they could broadcast.
powering it
that's
and,
cool.
and piping in. There were maybe 2 or 3 sales leaders, people who couldn't be there, and so they piped them in remotely, and they had it so you could do Q&A and all that kind of stuff. So it was a cool
I
setup.
like the microphone they had.
foam
It was
box.
like a foam box, and they would throw it to you because
wow.
you might be like 15 people in on a row.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting idea to do.
And
And
I
all
was-
it is a microphone inside of it.
And I always felt like when I held it up, I was like, oh, let me hold it
I know.
really far away because I was super loud. But it was a good event. And I think, like I said, the substance, they had a full itinerary, really bringing in. The other thing I think I appreciate about Ambetter, so if anybody at Centene or Ambetter hears this podcast, I appreciate the fact that Nate Waters was there, Kevin Coonahan was there, Kerry Klaus was there. I mean, I could go through
Armando.
the list. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you go through the list. Their whole leadership team was there. Their CEO was there. Their CFO piped in. Their CSO. Their COO. It's like a lot of these carriers, they have representatives or people that deal with the salespeople or distribution, right? And the fact that they're very accessible from a leadership perspective and that they're invested, I think having the accessibility to them is very valuable. And so that's the feedback that I always give them that we really like. So
Especially having the CEO come right up and like, here's my cell phone.
Yeah,
If you see something that we're not doing right,
Right.
call me. Because we want to try and fix it, and I want to hear directly from you.
yeah, and Kevin, I mean, look, we've called him a couple times, you and I. So I mean, it's great to. We really appreciate that with the Ambetter folks. They really broke down everything that's happening, and they kind of gave you here's what we're seeing, State of the Union. A lot of it aligned with what we were hearing from CMS anyhow, and the new regs and provisions. And of course, the goal and the objective is we try to stay very much on top of everything that's happening in the news. We're reading articles, we're consuming all that. We're on those large agency calls with CMS. We're in front of it. Not every agency owner is that like plugged in. And so they're trying to go to distribution to say, hey, here's all these massive, impactful things that are going to be occurring in the ACA. And it's your job as distribution to go prep, your agents and agencies for this very tumultuous OE that we're about to experience. So I think that was really their objective. And so we had a full day of, again, very good content from very intelligent people. And then we had a great event that night at the Budweiser
Anheuser-Busch.
Anheuser-Busch facility, which is pretty cool.
The original.
It's the most
that's
visited place in St. Louis, it sounds like, more than the Gateway Arch, I found out. And yes, I took pictures, and yes, it was pretty cool. Yes, we got to see the horses and the tour and all the stuff there, which was pretty cool. Yeah. They have 150 acres, in prime area of St. Louis.
Right by the Cardinal Stadium.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. The operation was very cool. For me as a business owner, when I take a look at others and you peel back the layers and my brain starts to think about okay, how many gallons can fit in that vat? How many per day can bottle? What does that mean in revenue? And I start doing all these equations as I'm walking on a tour. It was pretty cool.
Extremely cool.
Yeah, so they always do a great job with those events. And then the next day we had another 3-4 hours the next day before departing flights, and we had Michelle, who's a consultant from Wakely, and I think we have a guest request in with her to come and be on the show as well. But she might have been one of the superstars of the whole event, that everybody really loved her deep analysis into the ACA and the hard data that she presented to people. It was pretty enlightening. So it was overall very good event. Hats off to Ambetter on that very cool event. So what was your biggest takeaway or the biggest thing you walked away from?
I think it's Ambetter's been listening to us. They are going to change the way that they pay commissions, probably in quarter number 2 of next year. They're also going to give you downlines, viewership into their book of business and their hierarchy. So kind of like what you have on Medicare. They're going to figure out what they did right on Medicare, and they're going to implement it on ACA. I think that's my favorite thing out of all of it. And they're going to give the option, do you want to be direct paid, or do you want your FMO to administer the payment?
Yep.
And you can mix and match depending on who the agency is, which I think is really cool, because with past carrier, Aetna, who was leaving, you only had 2 different options to do on it.
Yep.
So I'm really excited about that.
And I do tip my hat to Aetna because they were the first to kind of do direct pay to agents and then overrides or admin fees separate.
Yeah.
Which was great. And we gave them that feedback. It was awesome. I think one of the things that we liked about that and talking about their enhancements, they had a whole session with 2 or 3 different speakers talking about all their tech improvements, portal improvements, things with visibility that they're going to be doing. And that kind of stuff gets me ecstatic. I was thinking about how to say that in the PG version on this like podcast, but that's like the stuff that like we salivate for. And part of the reason that Jeff brought up it's a big deal is what we've observed a lot in the ACA space is that whether there's agencies out there who are unethical or they don't have operational resources or they're very good and accurate at bookkeeping or for whatever reason, there's a lot of problems in them paying agents their commissions, their PMPM appropriately, or they're paid different amounts than they should be, or they're paid with infrequency. And this leads to a lot of unhappy agents out there. And if you're listening, you're probably one of them be like, yeah, that's freaking right, because my agency doesn't ever pay me on time and my book of business isn't correct and X and Y and Z. There's a lot of pain with that in the industry. And so I think that them saying, hey, if we can solve this and have the ability to pay the agents direct and then pay the agency separate for their services, then we're going to eliminate a lot of that friction. And so I think for the good and ethical agency owners out there who just don't have resources for a good bookkeeper or a good system, or they're not as organized, they're really relieved and happy about that. For the bad actors out there who are intentionally skimming, screwing over people, holding their payments and stuff like that, it's going to hurt their business model. And so I'm really excited about that. And obviously Ambetter's the largest, so you kind of see them, doing that as a play next year. And I think that's going to lead for other carriers to follow and establish a norm. And so we're starting to see what is looking like a lot more stability in that line of business and in that segment. So I think that, again, very good. I like that point.
Yeah, and I think they're looking at banning NPN override as well. They asked us to raise our hand. Dan and I immediately put our hand up, but I'll tell you what, I think we might have been in the minority of that room.
Like 2 other people.
Yeah.
I mean, and granted, look, it wasn't a large room. There was maybe like 20, 25 partners that they brought in. And we immediately shot up our hand because it was more of like a survey, like, hey, and I want you all listening to know that, again, we really value this because they're coming to us as distribution. And I can't remember how many millions of policies we represented in that room, but us like 20 agency owners in the room represented
50% of all of Ambetter's book, as they said, it represented them in that room.
Millions of enrollments. So they go to us and say, hey, what do you guys all think? What's your opinion of this? And it's not just a survey, it's a conversation about the why. And then after the survey, it's, hey, I'm going to talk to you later at dinner and I want to pick your brain as to like what you think the pros and cons of this is going to be. What are the intended consequences? What's the unintended consequence? So I really do like that they're listening. So that was very cool. I think that was a huge takeaway. The tech enhancements, the direct pays, I'm ecstatic about that. We're going to talk about NPN override later. I want to couch it for a minute because that's going to be a big thing that we talk about. When I was actually also looking at ICRA being a big kind of takeaway from it, ICRA continues to be a big focus. And look, I keep saying it, ICRA is a terrible acronym. Whoever thought of ICRA, they need to be better at branding and marketing. It's like AIDS or icky or some terrible name. They changed it now to what, choice? Or
it didn't happen.
It didn't.
It didn't happen.
Yeah. So it's going to expand, right?
Yep.
And the idea, if you're not familiar with ICRA, is that ability for the employee to go and not get their health benefits from their employer, to be able to go into the private marketplace and choose a plan that they want, whether they want higher or lower deductibles and a plan with certain networks that they want, and they have more flexibility and choice, and the employer giving them essentially like a stipend or a credit to go get that insurance, and the employer being able to get a tax break for doing it. And so I like the mechanics of how it looks, and I think it's very popular. I don't think ICRA is ever going to replace the large group or the commercial, like the employer marketplace, but can it go to be 3, 5, 10, 15% of that marketplace? Like, absolutely, there's a space for it. And so I think that they're going to continue to look at expand. I think they're going from
6 to 13.
I was going to say, I was like, I don't know, do we talk about it yet? I guess we'll have to ask if we should tell them how many states we're expanding.
It's public.
All right, good. I'm always like, wait a minute, how much can I say? But yeah, they're going from 6 to 13 states. And I love to see it. I think the thing that's been holding back ICRA too for a lot of the time is the ICRA administrators have been pretty abusive in like their fee structures, at least the retail rates of what they're saying. And this is something that I'm okay saying publicly. It would take off a lot more if these ICRA administrators would just be more level set and reasonable on their fee structure, and you'd get brokers adopting it like crazy and running with it. And so because these ICRA administrators are trying to say, hey, no, we own the book of business, not you, and we're going to pay you your commissions on it. And I think if they were to cut their fees in probably about half of what they are and say, no, we recognize that that's your book of business and we're just providing a service, then it's going to take off. So we've definitely work to do. If you're one of those ICRA admins, we know there's about 3 or 4 of you out there in platforms. We'll be shopping the marketplace to find the right partner for us with our volume. We won't be paying the retail rates. We will be finding a partner that's going to be good from an economic perspective with us. And then I think that's going to be a really good line of business. So that was one of my takeaways from the kickoff as well.
Yeah.
So the summit.
I think their government relations team that was one of the first to speak to us, they were in Washington, D.C., speaking about the subsidies and kind of exactly what we put out on a podcast a couple weeks ago when Heather and I were in D.C. Exact same talk, no change. We all think it's going to happen. It's not going to be till late November. And he said the exact same thing. Do not want this to be a talking point in the midterms. Mm-hmm. So they expect a deal to be done because the top 3 states that will be affected will be Texas, Georgia, and Florida.
Yeah. And
now North Carolina, who's going to be one of the biggest swing states with the Senate.
Yep.
They're really not wanting this to become an issue. But it's almost too late
too
because
late.
they're in summer recess right now. So the next time they'll even pick this up won't be till September.
Yeah, let's educate people a little bit more and dive deeper on that. I think I'm a nerd, like I'm an insurance geek, and I like to dive in deep and understand the why. And what's happening is we've talked about it for a year now that we thought enhanced subsidies were going to get renewed. The ET, what would you call it?
EAPTC.
Yeah, I always screw up the acronym. There you go. That's why you're the expert. But like, so you don't want Dan training. You have Heather train you. She'll teach you how to sell ACA better than me. But, we've been talking about it for a year that they're going to get renewed. And I do think so. And the reason being is because if you look at how we do healthcare in the country, all the blue states have expanded Medicaid, right? And so you look at their lower income populations and those thresholds have moved up higher and higher. So those lower income populations, they're still paying for health care, but they're doing so with Medicaid. Most of the states that did not expand Medicaid were red states. Yep. And so when you look at this upcoming year that we'll talk about, we're staring down the barrel. Look, we were in that room and people were like, how much are premiums going to go up next year? Like 7%? And it's like, if you've ever seen that movie, The Accountant, where he's doing the taxes and he's like, higher, and he's like 12, 15. I'm like, bro, like big, and it's like, we're in the 20s or 30, we're going to be seeing like mid to high 20s or maybe 30%.
At a minimum.
It depends on the state, right? But we're going to be seeing huge increases this next year that we're going to talk about. And so when you're in these states that are swing states, many of them right now, they're in the middle of kind of redistricting Texas for all this right now in these midterm elections. And again, it's not a good thing for in the midterms to say, hey, everything swung from being very blue to being very red. And now here I am and my health insurance premiums went up 20 to 30%. Who's going to be happy with that? Nobody's going to be happy. I think both sides of the aisle want people to have affordable healthcare coverage. And so when the result is, though, that it's gone up 20 to 30%, people are pissed off. It doesn't bode well. It's going to be too late. So we were talking about it, and for those that don't know, August is recess for Congress. They're not in session. Nothing happens right now. So, okay, they come back to session in September. And when is their next opportunity to actually get something onto the floor and actually get a bill?
At least 21 days if they started from the first day. It's going to be October before you even see a vote.
So October, and then they were talking about it. It's likely that something's going to happen right before the stroke of midnight at November or December. So that's when
open enrollment will have already started.
That's when they're going to renew. We believe they are going to renew these enhanced subsidies. But of course, all the actuaries and the carriers, they have to bid right now. And they have to submit their plans. And what they've done is many of them have already submitted, for the states that will allow it, they've submitted 2 bids, right? Hey, here's one that if we don't get any enhanced subsidies, this is what our plans are going to look like. Here's our rates, and here's what it'll look like if we get the subsidies renewed. Not all states will allow for dual filings. And so it depends on the state. So again, so great. Let's say they get renewed by November, December. Well, everything's already priced in for 2026. So we're going to go take our time machine back in time many years, and we're going to have these really high premiums with people getting sticker shock. And what's the result going to be?
I think we're going to lose probably 4.5 million people off of ACA.
And you're going to see
Easily.
people going from, look, there was this silver loading that we did for a lot of years. There were these bonuses being paid in for all these silver plans. Like, oh, we don't want them on the bronze. We want them on silver. And now that's completely wiped away. And you're going to be seeing all these people in gold and silver dropping back down to bronze because of how big the premiums are. I mean, right?
You'll probably see a lot more of the ancillary sales too, because they're going to have to figure out how to pay those high deductibles too.
And we still, and to kind of compound what's unfolding this fall, is that we have a lot of uncertainty on the STMs, right? There was the lawsuit, we don't have to go rehash it completely, but with the admin, they said it was, I don't know if I'm going to get banned already because that's a trigger word, but we'll see. Anyways, they said it was junk insurance, right? And they went very aggressively against STM products. And, we've talked about UH1 in particular. They had, and Allstate, they all had like these 3x12, products that you could renew and have for 3 years.
Yep.
And those were very effective and people really liked them.
Very affordable too.
And so, but those have kind of been on hold. And I know that carriers have products like that waiting in the wings. They're trying to file for this upcoming year.
Allstate already has one prepared that you'll be able to do 12 months at a time, 3 different carriers back to back, but you won't know that it's 3 different carriers because Allstate will administer it all.
Correct.
And so you won't know that it's 3 different carriers, but they'll at least have 12-month terms. And then that lawsuit is going to be heard on August 27th.
Yep. And that one, they kind of, just for those of you who are following everything, in legal and court these days, basically the government said, hey, our, attorney that we had on that is no longer here or handling the case. Give us some time so we can brief our new attorney on it. I'm giving the Cliff Notes version, right?
Yep.
But, and then, give us some extra time. We want to stay so we can figure this out. And so it kind of held up for months. And so, again, it's going to be heard. We hope that it's going to go quick and that we get an outcome one way or the other so that they can file and have products on the shelf and available to consumers for this coming OE. And I think the ultimate goal is that I don't think we want anybody to be uninsured or not have coverage, right? Whether somebody's going to get coverage through, that's the great thing about freedom of choice. Like, we want people to be able to get traditional health insurance. We want people to have high deductible and lower premium, or higher premium with low deductibles, or maybe they're part of a Christian ministry or an association plan or STM. Either way, no matter how you chop it up, we want people to have coverage, right? So I just think that not having that type of an option, especially in a year that we're going to have, would be an absolute, shame. It'd be a catastrophe. So hoping, fingers crossed, that lawsuit wraps up somewhat expediently and we can get some more clarity before we're doing like our rollouts in like September. And talking to distribution and trying to help them with this upcoming year. So that's one thing. So again, enhanced subsidies, very much a big talking point. And then how the yo-yo, right? Let's say it's going to play out like we're kind of predicting, and it's already set for 2026. And then, yay, 2027 is going to come back, and we're going to have these great rates again, is likely what's going to be happening in the marketplace. Yeah.
And carriers are looking to do big expansion in 2027. And we know of a couple states, we can't say it yet, but let's just say we are very excited.
I I got giddy knowing some of the states and the things that are happening, which is great. It's going to be great. 2027 is looking awesome. So, and the weird thing about the business is I'm going to blink 3 times and we're going to be there in 2027. It feels like. So let's talk about really quick before I go through all my Cliff Notes and a few other talking points that I want to cover on ACA. I feel like lately we could talk about it for 3 hours. There's 5 things that are happening this month now that I think, look, we deal with a lot of agents and some of them have different levels of engagement. Some people are really attuned to everything going on. They read the newsletters, they're on webinars, they're paying attention to everything CMS puts out. They're great. There's other agents who have been, frankly, vacationing for the last 2 or 3 months and they're like, wait, what's going on? And so I think it's really critical that we're telling people, hey, even this month, this isn't this coming OE or it's not next year. There's 5 key things that are kicking in this month in August. Here in a couple weeks, is August 25th?
24th.
I was close. See, again, I got to rely on the experts here. So let's run through them, Heather. Do you want to kind of brief everybody on them?
So the first one is that 150% federal poverty level SEP is gone. Never to be returned.
Done.
Yes,
Dead.
it's dead.
And that's where the most fraud is going on.
We don't
That's why
think
it's being killed.
that genie's not being put back in the bottle. That is it's over and done. So for the 150% FPL agencies, that's all that they did, and that's all the business that they wrote. I mean, we're going to talk about that again here in a little bit with OE, right? But that's done. It's over.
It's gone.
And all those people who are writing a lot of policies every month right now on just that 150% FPL, what's going to happen to them? Where's their business going to come from, Heather?
The plans are going to come, but you're going to have to find other SEPs.
Not that SEP of 150% FPL.
No.
And what we found is a lot of people were like, oh, hey, what's your income? Oh, I didn't hear that at all. Let me just put down this arbitrary number.
Yep.
What was that exact dollar amount that you said this amount? Yes, that's your income.
Yeah.
We found a lot of that going on in the marketplace where consumers were saying what they were actually earning, but the agent was putting on the application that magic number to be at 150% FPL.
Yep.
So I don't think that crap's done.
Or even 100% of federal poverty level. You have someone that's homeless and they're making nothing, but they put 100% federal poverty so they can have a $0, 94% cost share protected.
Instead of CADE.
Yes.
Yep. And it went both ways. Yep.
Yep. So another change that's coming is that if they haven't filed their taxes for 1 year.
It was 2 before.
It was 2 years.
Now it's 1.
Now it's 1 year. If they haven't filed their taxes for the last year, they're going to lose their subsidy. So they're going to go to a full cost premium.
I'm hoping everybody listening is hearing this, because these are big changes, because there's a lot of people who are filing extensions or just not filing, and they're multi-years out, and they're going to be SOL when it comes to those subsidies.
Yep.
Extremely.
The last thing one of the last things is that they're going to have to verify their income. If their tax return shows that they're lower than 100% of federal poverty, they're going to have to prove their income, whether that's W-2s, pay stubs, profit loss
1099s,
statement, something.
And
to
you're already
prove
getting
your
emails
income.
about it. So if you're doing an SEP right now, they say, hey, next year you're going to have to prove this income. They're already emailing and notifying you about it.
Yep. And we're already seeing people losing their subsidies because they can't show their income. And you used to be able to attest, do a little letter that said, this is what I think I'm going to earn this next year. That's gone. So if they haven't filed taxes, they can't not self-attest.
Now, I do know, I think you can attest, though, for the SEP, though, right?
Yeah, they were saying that they will accept them.
Yes.
And the big issue that they have right now is they only have so many workers.
Yeah.
So some of the stuff when they upload, how strict they're going to be.
I will say this. So, to your point, although to use the SEP for the enrollment, you can still use that. And I will say, I talked to leadership there at Ambetter, and CMS has a form for that.
Yep.
We are going to take that form, and convert it into a jot form or a DocuSign or whatever. And when we're helping somebody, across state lines or somewhere remotely, and we're on the phone, which again, we record all of our phone calls, and they state their income, then we'll be able to populate it on the jot form of the DocuSign and send it to them.
Yep.
And have them sign it electronically.
Or wet signature.
Yeah.
But just typing a name now on, and they're not going to accept that
So-
anymore, because that's
so
where all the fraud was.
We'll have a process for that for all of our agents and our virtual agents and agency owners. So we'll have a process, very easy to kind of create and do, but do it the right way. That'll still be there for at least the SEP part of it.
Yeah.
But
And 75% of all SEPs are going to have to be verified some way, somehow, whether it's move or loss of coverage or...
And it'll be before 2020.
Yeah.
You're going to be randomly pulled. You'll get the email afterwards saying you have 90 days to turn in a gas bill or something like that, for example. Mm-hmm. You upload it. A couple days later, it'll probably be approved. It should be a pretty easy process. At least we're hoping that it's from before and it's not a new complicated. So fingers crossed.
you can't just upload a birthday card and hope that it was a doc so it got approved.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, right now, they were not checking any SEPs.
They weren't checking
so
anything.
we are very glad that this is happening.
Yeah.
This will get rid of a lot of fraudsters.
I think the last one that's kind of big is the DACA. Those people who were part of that Dreamers Act were considered here lawfully. They are now not eligible for ACA coverage. Whether they get subsidy or not, they are not eligible at all.
Yep. 100%. So that's a big one too. Like, they're not eligible. I mean, look, we talked to agency owners at this meeting last week who, like, half their book or more was that. And it's like, well, 50% of your revenue is poof, gone. So,
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's actually like 3 things too that are really contributing to these really high premiums next year. Like, for people listening, going, how can you screw it up from an actuary perspective so bad to where your premiums are going to be increasing in some states over 30%? Like, how can it be that bad? And the reason I look at it from being threefold, and it's first, it's all the DACA, right? It's like, that's one component of it. Like, you have all these people that are getting health insurance coverage, and, you know, the lion's share, like really high percentage, is not paying anything. It's zero. And you have claims along with it. But then second, you have all the ghost members, which all the carriers have acknowledged to one degree or another that, like, are people that never existed.
Yep.
And they're starting to claw them back, right? And so as CMS is finding, like, hey, here's a policyholder or a person, a life you've been getting paid on for X amount of years, but there's never been a single claim, and we have no way of, like, even validating that it's a real person or human. As they've been identifying it, they've been clawing some of that back. So as they're getting that claw back, that's impacting their financials now. And then the third is just the morbidity, right? Like, where that's not been something that's, like, you know, transitory. You know, it's not just been this temporary thing. I don't want to get on, like, all my personal opinions as to why we just magically had this uptick in, like, morbidity. I mean, it's multi-pronged, but part of it was delayed stuff during the COVID years, people not getting care, people not getting preventive services, people delaying things. You know, there's a lot of reasons why, and I won't give my personal thoughts as to why, but I think a lot of that morbidity is going to be here to stay. It's not transitory. It's not going back to where it was pre-COVID levels. Yeah. I think this new era of morbidity is here to stay. So they're now saying, like, well, hey, we have all this extra claims data now. How do we basically account for that? So it's threefold, and that's why it's such an ugly 3-headed monster this next year on their premiums. And no subsidies. So really, even if it gets renewed, too late.
Yep.
Really, really ugly. So sorry. You're up next. What next we got on the list, Heather?
This next year's open enrollment, there's been a lot of confusion of what the dates are. This year, it's November 1st through January 15th.
Yay.
So you're going to have a longer time frame to be able to renew all your policies.
Although, if you're doing it in January, though.
Yeah, if you're doing it in January,
February 1st.
Yep, it'll be a February 1st. Anything after December 15th is always February 1st.
Yep. So keep that, you know, in mind, you know, as you're kind of mapping out, like, all your days. And if you're an agent who's doing both Medicare and ACA, just how you're, you know, game planning that this fall.
This will be the last year of it.
Yep.
It will.
Yeah.
Next year it'll be till December 15th, and then it's done.
I mean, that was one of the things that we fought for and thought, like, you know, as far as being practical, like, we understand that you want to shorten the time period and not extend it, especially, like, to the January 15th. Let's say you just want to do it November 1st through December 31st. But after that, it's going to be even shorter, because it's going to be November 1st to December 15th.
Yes.
It's like 6 weeks. I mean, it's so short.
Yeah.
It's going to be so hard. And when you're looking at a year with as much disruption, and you're also having, you know, we'll talk about NPN overrides, but you're going to have fewer qualified people or eligible people to help and service people. You're going to have less people at CMS to help people and service people.
Yep.
Somebody has to do the work. And this year, you can't auto-renew. You have to have humans on both ends of the transaction doing it. And with a shortened time frame, that was going to be really, really ugly. So I'm just glad that we at least got one more year to kind of, like, stabilize it.
The last thing I think we want to talk about is the fact that if you do not touch your policy and it auto renews, if there are still $0 premium plans available, your consumer is going to go to $5 automatically. If you touch it from December 15th to January 15th, they're going to have to pay that $5 in January, and they'll get it back on their tax return. But if they don't pay it, they'll lose their coverage in 90 days. Mm-hmm. So
repeat that for agents so that they really drive this point home, because this is like the big part is being able to actually touch your book of business and renew it versus not this coming year.
So you have to touch your policies.
What does a touch constitute?
Means you're going to have to open up the application, make sure that you're completing the new application, making any changes to the policy, to the application, and renewing the policy, actually enrolling them in a new policy. Not necessarily that you're changing their carrier or their plan, but you're going to have to enroll them for the January 1st effective date.
The weird thing about this too is I'm thinking about people going from $0 to $5, right? And we have all these people in the industry who are freaking out about the $5 thing versus zero, right? Like we all talk to people that are freaking out about it, and I'm like, what kind of business did you write? In my mind, I'm just going like, do people even understand that they bought insurance? Like, I don't have auto insurance for $0 or like life insurance, or I don't have insurance on a freaking phone. I don't buy phone insurance. I don't even buy insurance in blackjack, just so you guys know. But like,
if you can even find a casino like
I know. I'm like, I always say I sell it, don't buy it. But no, it's like, you have all these like things that you actually want to insure. And what is more important to insure than like your health and your wellness of you and your family? And when people go like, oh, zero, I don't give a crap. It's like it's junk, because like anything in life, and like we even talk about our agents, if they spend money towards leads, they're going to work it really hard. They value it. Anything that you're spending money on, you value. And when you're just getting health insurance for $0 and you have no skin in the game and pay zero, then that's the reason why you think it's junk and you don't use it, because there's no value there. So it's a complete mindset problem that we have in the industry, and it's a problem from the way the consumer perceives health insurance, and it's a problem in the agent and broker community and how they're positioning the product and presenting it to the consumer. For too long, they just presented it like this junk, like, oh, you get these extra benefits for zero. It's like, no, you're getting major medical health insurance and you're getting fully insured, you or your family or loved ones or whatever. Not, hey, you get this cool, Visa gift card in the mail for, these scammy TikTok ads or whatever. You know what I mean? Whatever they were, those bait switch things. So I don't know. I don't have a problem. Has that kind of been your dialogue with people too, Jeff? Very similar?
I think people are losing their minds over it. People are telling me I'm going to lose 50 or 90% of my book of business, and I'm like, well, I would diversify your book a little bit.
Yeah.
I really don't feel bad, honestly.
I've been telling agents that for a while. You need to diversify.
Yeah.
If everything's zero, you need to diversify.
Yeah. And, it's the big agencies that everyone has issues with, too. So I think there's going to be a big, big shakeup in 26. In 27, we are very bullish on ACA. You get through this next year, it's going to be like the gold rush of 49 again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and two other things that I wanted to talk about there. One thing that as I'm thinking about the overall conversation and the ACA, and we're talking about initiatives that we want to make the marketplace more stable. We want to bring back real health insurance, and the one thing I did like is Ambetter's CFO came on, and him and their CEO, Kevin, had a conversation about like, hey, being the biggest, we have certain like buying power and economies of scale and things that other smaller carriers don't have. And we're looking at all the data and like the rates and the reimbursements and just the environment right now. And we're having to come into the marketplace with rates that we don't want to do. Like they don't want to hike these rate increases, right? Like that's not their desire. They have to be profitable and be solvent. And, nobody gets into business to lose money, but they're having to be forced to file premiums higher than they would like to see, even with all these good advantages in negotiating power with networks, with doctors, with hospitals, with all these economies of scale. And the decision was, do we share our kind of data and insight and high-level analysis with all the other carriers in the nation, or do we not? And the decision was, no, we want to share with them. And so he told us they've been reaching out and sharing data with other carriers to say, hey, as a cautionary tale, we're going to be really conservative with our rate filings because of all this information. We want you all to really consider this. Please don't file these very aggressive rates just because they know the environment. And And the reason they do that is because if smaller carriers file aggressive rates and they're winning, they're getting all these enrollments that they can't sustain, and then what's going to happen?
Another Friday plan.
We're going to have a Friday or a Bright, again, like we talked about, where it's this massive event where they have to completely exit the market. They're not solvent. And then in a normal environment, you would love that in business, right? Like normally, if one of my competitors, normally if one of my competitors goes out of business, then you're like, woohoo, all right, let me swoop in there and go gain some market share. But in the way that the marketplace is structured, you know, you have like that pool and that solvency where every time that somebody goes out of business, everybody pro rata has to put more money into the reserve pool. So, you know, you have carriers like Ambetter who is in that reserve pool to the tune of billions, right? Already, where here, let's say they are being profitable and they have this extra cash, they can't go invest it into their infrastructure, their plans, their benefits. They have to put that into the reserve fund for solvency of the marketplace. And so they don't want their competitors going out of business and going under. So that was one thing that I thought was really unique and interesting. And I think that's a concept that your average agent or agency really doesn't understand how the marketplace like really functions. And those are kind of some of the things that I geek out on some of the time, because you wish they could just take that money and reinvest in their plans. And why can't this plan be substantially better, like just immediately? It has to be like this very, very, very slow creep. We should, before we run out of time, talk about the big news. About 20 minutes before the podcast, we heard another big announcement, right?
Florida banned NPN overrides.
Yay! All right, Mosiah, you should put like on this episode some gigantic fireworks, dynamite, confetti, party. I'm excited about it personally because we've been banging the drum for 2 years now or more about like we really don't think that NPN override should exist, like where a lot of the problems stem from this, and we've been very much proponents to not have NPN override only because we've seen firsthand how much fraud occurs and how many people are hiding and not very visible with the issues that are going on in the marketplace with the NPN override. And so a lot of the fraud, and I'm sorry, Florida, I'm sorry, they've been the epicenter of of all the 50 states in the union. They've been the one where fraud has been the most prevalent, you know, not just in their local marketplace, but shops operating out of Florida, selling nationwide throughout the FFM and even in some private exchanges. Like the majority of the fraud has come from Florida. So the fact that they're getting rid of NPN override is great.
And UHC banned it a week ago.
So UHC said, no, if you're selling UHC products, you can't do it via an NPN override. The state of Florida saying you can't. Iowa, Wisconsin,
North Carolina,
Wisconsin,
New Hampshire.
Carolina.
The 52 people that live in New Hampshire. All 52 of them.
South Dakota.
I pissed off somebody from New Hampshire probably.
South Dakota, you know, all those people in South Dakota.
They probably have 110 people there. I don't know.
Wisconsin.
I'm making a lot of people mad today probably. I'm like, what's in New Hampshire? What's in like South Dakota? I don't know. But anyway, it's good though to see that the trend, there's momentum, and we were talking about it this thing last week is if, you know, we joke about reading the tea leaves, it gets easier and easier. There's more momentum to see what's really happening and the trend that's going on. And now you're seeing 3, 4, 5 states, and a big one like Florida. There's rumors that another massive state, there's like 2 other big states in the country, so you can think about
state.
You can think about which. There's rumors that another really big state is going to come out and ban and not have NPN override too. And so it's just like, it's just the way it's going. And I've been talking to these carriers and saying like, hey, you need to be ahead of it and already start investing into your infrastructure and your systems, your commission payments, your book of business, because again, your onboarding processes, because again, this is going to be permanent. This is the way it is. You can't be caught with your pants down, so to speak, because they implement this regulation and you're scrambling, trying to figure out how to overhaul all your systems in 30 or 60 days. That's not going to be sustainable.
And I think some of these carriers really need to adjust the way they do things. I can think of a couple carriers where they encourage you to stack policies and assign them, and you're auto-enrolling it. And that's not what CMS wants. And I think these carriers are going to get in some trouble. They don't start changing their ways.
Yeah, there's been a few of them we've been really frustrated with. I mean,
Yeah.
like, honestly, we've had frustrating conversations with carriers where we're telling them, you are pushing and promoting by comp plan behaviors
That are
that
bad.
CMS very specifically says that they don't want. And we're telling you that, and you seem to not care, and you're going to continue doing it until the bitter end. I don't understand why you're doing this against the guidance of what, CMS is intending to do.
Yeah.
And those have been, as you all know, we've wanted to rip our hair out, and,
Yes.
over some of those very frustrating conversations.
Absolutely.
One of the other things that I was going to talk to people about is just going back to overall and the tone and the temperament of, the marketplace and our Ambetter meeting. Compliance continues to be a big thing. We're talking about NPN overrides, and compliance is going to continue to kind of creep into the ACA more and more. And I think it's one of the few times in life you're going to hear me saying that I want more compliance. Like, I'm a salesperson, right? We all deal with compliance, but I mean, it's reasonable that, like, if you're selling somebody an insurance plan, you talk to them about, like, hey, the monthly premium is this, or you don't have one, or you can go to these doctors or hospitals, or here's your max out of pocket. I mean, there's things that should be a pretty basic thing, and I'm okay in having some of those components creep in. Now, some of the Medicare stuff, holy crap, the pendulum has swung way too far, where I'm like, this is out of hand. Like,
It's completely out of hand. on the
it's
Medicare
so
side.
out of hand.
It's ridiculous,
But
honestly.
I will say it was good to hear from Centene and saying, like, hey, if you're like, we want below like a 1% like threshold of like complaints that you're getting, and like we're like almost nothing.
Our
Like
packet was like that, and I was looking at other agencies' packets, and it was like this.
they gave you kind of like an analysis of your agency and an overview of like any infractions or complaints, and it was like a one-sheeter for us, and it was like, this is great.
Like, I know about all these.
Other people had a King James Bible. Like, but it was kind of interesting to look at that. But they said, hey, if you're like, we want at least establishing kind of like a guardrail, like 1% or below of overall, which I think was really
reasonable.
It's reasonable. Another couple things that I really liked that they were doing too, enhancements, and this is kind of cool, is they were talking about being able to, in your BOB, and Ambetter does a good job of this right now in their book of business, like where you can log into your portal, see your book of business. But what they're going to start doing this next year is they're going to start flagging some of your members if they had been appearing in other people's books of business or multiple people's books of business over the last 12 months. So for all of you who are really in depth in the ACA, you know why? Because they're basically going to go to you and indicate and say, like, hey, that member, Jeff or Heather, if you can trace back to whoever the lead vendor was you were using for this, we also found that that person was in another person's book of business and another person's book of business in the last 12 months. And you can start tracking it down to the source to kind of say, like, hey, I'm not using that lead vendor anymore because they're obviously selling this exclusive lead out the door to 7 different agencies. And what's the point of paying for the CPA and the CPL when, they're just going to sell it to somebody else the next month and rip it and steal it from you anyway. And it's going to kind of inadvertently, kind of weed out some of the bad actors, the lead vendors side, which I think is really cool that they're going to kind of give you more insight that way. And it's also kind of going to give you the ability to know, like, hey, did I do the revoke consent, but it didn't stick and didn't work? And maybe do I need to, like, even though they're in my book of business, do I need to call back into the marketplace and do this the second and the third and the 5th time? Because we've even had that where you revoke consent and they didn't do it. And you're like, okay, well, how do I actually get this revoked? So I think that's going to be a pretty cool thing, like an enhancement that they're doing to their book of business too.
Heather, you should talk about how FFM's still not up, where we all expected it to be up and running by now.
Last I heard, they're expecting it might not come up until September because of the program integrity. They're wanting to incorporate those rules into the FFM training and the regulations from the Big Beautiful Bill.
Yeah, and if anyone's watching on this, we got to start getting this better. It's ridiculous. 2 weeks, if you guys want to have it down, you got to be able to let agents do their certification and be able to write business.
Well, especially you have to think about too, if you're a state who's, like, even if they're not running like a telesales virtual shop, but let's say they're close to state lines somewhere and they have to do 2 or 3 certifications, you know, because they're close to state borders or something. And you got to do some private exchange certs. Like me, God only knows how many certs do I do every year between the FFM,
New Mexico,
over
private
50
Georgia.
exchanges, Medicare, different carriers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably more than 80 hours that I have to go through
Easy.
certifications, you know, because of all the different lines of business and the different carriers and products. And the Colorado one,
It's brutal.
that one's really,
If anyone in Colorado's listening as well, change your process.
Yeah.
cut that, you know, by 90%.
I don't know. New Mexico was pretty bad this year too.
We're just surrounded by states that need to work on their certification.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, I would say, so there's a lot coming. I think that the FFM definitely has some rooms. I am actually optimistic, even though it's going to be really brutal. I told everybody we kind of took our licks last year because we were not riding under a principal NPN override. We were individually having every agent ride on their own NPN, even our independent agents, but then also even our call center agents under their own NPNs. We weren't able to migrate some of their orphan policies to our book, and we had a really challenging time trying to one by one renew everybody. But the ones that we did are very, very solid now. And so I think that we're, as an agency, positioned really well heading into this chaos. And I think that a lot of our competitors are just about to, poop's just about to hit the fan.
Yeah.
Oh, we're getting phone calls daily like, hey, what are you guys doing? How do we jump on board with you guys?
Yes.
We like what you guys are doing with it. You guys are kind of ahead of the curve. And I'm like, really, we're just following what Medicare was doing. We're implementing it on ACA.
Yeah.
We're just following the rules and taking an extra step to be ahead. Don't shortcut it.
It's been interesting too. Recording's not required, but when I tell an agent, they'll say, how do I get my consent and how do I get my attestation? And they say, well, are you recording your phone calls? If you're recording your phone calls and you're going over the app and you're gaining consent, you don't have to do anything else. It's on a recorded phone call.
You got to send a recording to a compliance officer,
Yeah.
to a carrier, to whoever. Like you're good. Yeah, it's interesting. So we're, for once, all in favor of that.
Yep.
Before we come up on time or wrap, anything else you can think of we might have missed?
I think NPN overrides are going to be banned nationwide by the end of the year. I think the
next
carriers are going
year.
to be the ones that really step into it, but
Yep.
I think states, we know of some. We knew about Florida back in February. This was going to happen. It just took them a lot longer than what we were expecting, but I expect stuff to start trickling down, and then from the talks from what the carriers are saying is they're done with it as well.
I think there's a lot of reluctance from people. Like, look, people don't, in general, we're all creatures of habit, and they don't want to change, and change is hard. They don't want to adapt.
Yeah.
And so I also think that there's these old school legacy people who have been in the ACA space for a while who have positioned themselves into areas of authority and power, and they don't want to give up the power with a lot of these changes too. And
Yeah.
it's high time that, look, what we've been doing has not been working and it has to change. And they're too afraid that their little empire that they've built is going to be at risk. And it's time to steamroll them and do the right thing.
Yep.
And I'm really, for the record, happy to see it happening. And I think that all these changes that are happening are going to make it to where we're back to a viable real line of business, selling real insurance to real people on both ends of the call or at both ends of the kitchen table. And that, right now, even from an investment perspective, nobody with capital wants to invest in ACA, right? I mean,
Right, no one.
investor capital, like I can't tell you how many agencies are like, hey man, I have a lead shop and we have an arm where we've been selling insurance. It's health insurance. Hey, I want X multiple. And you're like, how about 3 months of rev? Because
You're still like, do I really want that?
because there's like a cliff coming this upcoming enrollment season. And I'm like, the value of your book is almost nothing right now.
Right.
But you kind of get past these challenging things for a year or two and then start to get into the stability. And then that's when I see like the ACA as an agent or agency owner with a book of business or a distributor, where those values are going to change and you're going to see those LTVs increasing, and it's going to be an investable line of business here very shortly.
Yep.
So we just got to go through the pain, and we're all going to be better for it.
Yeah, big money.
We got to swallow
Big money.
we got to swallow the pill.
Yep. Change always brings opportunity.
Yep.
And we've seen this with ACA ever since it's been implemented. It's been a roller coaster, and I think this is going to kind of bring stability for a long period of time, hopefully.
All right. Well, and we got We got a kickoff coming out next month. We're combining our Medicare and our ACA. So we're preparing our curriculum, our partners, and our presenters to do that. So I'm sure before we have the kickoff in September, we'll probably have one more episode going through ACA either before the kickoff or right after.
And I think we're planning on streaming that too if there's people online who watch, right?
Yep, absolutely. So hit us up. You know where to find us. All right, there you go.